Welcome back. Okay. So let's go back and look at where we were. We dropped image, which we did that. Just like we did above, you can add constraints like unique or not null. Unique will make it so that, for example, let's say we wanted to make sure that no two ingredients had the same image, right? I don't know if that's a constraint you have. You might have it. If you did, you would say add column image varchar unique, right? And that would put a unique constraint on it, which makes sure every insert is different from another one. You could also put not null. In fact, we're going to do that here in just a second with this one right here. But this is saying that it cannot be empty. You always have to provide for it, even if it's an empty string. You do have to provide for it. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to alter table ingredients. So notice that I didn't put the semicolon here, which means that it's going to think on the next line. It's like, okay, you're continuing your query here. Add column image varchar 255. Add column type varchar 50. I'm making this one only 50 long because I know these types are never very long. Okay, this one I'm going to say that it's not null, so that everything has to have a type. Oh, and I have alter table ingredients, add column image. Oh, you know, I forgot a comma after the image here. So this one right here, you do have to, because I'm doing multiple add columns, I have to put a comma there. So it's usually pretty smart about telling you is like, hey, this is where the parser of SQL lost your train of thought. In this particular one, it's like I was not expecting to see add column type here, which means it came right before it. Okay, and now if I say describe ingredients, you can see here there's now a type, an image, a title, and an ID. These ones are all not nullable, whereas the image is nullable. We don't require it to have an image. Yeah, Dustin.
Are table names case sensitive?
Table names, I believe, are case sensitive. You know, honestly, good question. No, looks like they are also case insensitive. Today I learned. I've never tested that theory before. No, I'm inviting you to not test that theory either. Cool. Let me just get rid of that extra desktop. I don't need it. There are so many data types in Postgres that I just don't even want to get started on with how many there are. But if you want to look through them, these are all of the data types that you can have in Postgres. So many data types. And honestly, this is not even it, because you can actually add extensions to Postgres to add things like geolocation data, right? PostGIS, which will allow you to say how far is this point, in Seattle from this point in Minnesota, right? And you can do those kind of calculations using Postgres. That's an extension that you have to add to Postgres to get that. So today we're going to be going over probably 10 different data types, but just know that there's a lot more. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to show you here with this alter table, you don't have to do the add columns or drop columns or anything like that one by one. You can do like 5 different operations. I could have these 2, and then I could also drop another all-in-one alter table command, and that would allow me to do that all in one query. The reason why that's helpful, if you might imagine you're trying to modify something that's out in production, right? If it fails, you want it to fail all at once, right? You don't want 3 of them to succeed and 1 to fail. You want everything to fail so that you can go back and try again, so you have one holistic attempt. This is called like, it's transactional, right? It either worked or it didn't work. It doesn't partially work. So that's the advantage here of doing multiple things on one alter table. Yeah, Mark.
Me and a few other people in chat are getting the error column type of relation ingredients contains null values.
Yep. So this is the question that we were asked earlier. What happens if you try and add a column? So I imagine most of you probably didn't drop your table, right? If you didn't drop your table, that means you have something in there, right? Which would be a bell pepper. So basically here we're trying to add a column of the type that is not null, but there's something there that is null, right? Because if you add a column, that means it's going to add something and it's not going to have the ability to deal with that. So you have to provide for it. And I don't remember exactly how to do it off the top of my head. But I mean, basically what I would do is Postgres add column null. I'm sure it's going to be... Basically, it's going to be something like, oh wow, that's intense. Yeah, so you have to add like a default. Oh, that would be the other easier way to do it. Well.
Okay, you would just append default and then some sort of data to give.
Yeah, I have to remember exactly what but that's what it is. You have to add like a default clause, right, that says like the default to this.
In other words, go ahead and drop your table.
Yeah.
Start from scratch.
That's going to be easier. But yeah, that's probably what I would do. Drop table ingredients. And then you can just create table ingredients.
Yeah, someone just added like the words default and then in quotes vegetable, and it was able to.
Okay. I thought it'd be something really simple like that. I could just not. Here's my thing with SQL. Like obviously I did a lot of work preparing for this course and getting all these queries correct. I never remember this all off the top of my head. Absolutely never. I Google constantly when I'm doing SQL because it's very specific in terms of like what syntax comes where, what quotes go where, what double quotes or single quotes. In fact, I imagine someone right now is probably having a problem of putting double quotes around something. You can't do that. You have to use single quotes when you're talking about values. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you're doing like default quote vegetable, use single quotes, not double quotes. But let's just go ahead and see it because I think that might be a useful thing for people to see. Create that table. Come back here, alter table, and then you default vegetable. And there you go. And I'm saying these have to be single quotes specifically. Thank you, kind chat room person. Okay. Any questions so far about tables? All right. So that is the databases and tables. We're going to start getting into how to handle more data going in and out of your Postgres database. So we're going to go down here to the next lesson, and we're going to do inserts first. So now we have 3 different columns that we have to insert into. Well, 2 of them we have to, 1 of them we could leave blank. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to say insert into ingredients. Okay. And we're going to insert them in the order of title, image, type. We don't have to do it in that order, but this is the order that we're going to do it. Okay, and then we're going to say values. Single quotes, again, I'm going to re-emphasize that. Single quotes, not double quotes. Red pepper, red_pepper.jpg. And we're going to make it a vegetable. Okay. Close the parentheses, semicolon, and there we go. We inserted one item into our database. The 0 means we didn't update anything. All we did was insert. So this is kind of a weird syntax. Why is it done this way? Well, we can actually comma separate these values, and we can insert multiple values at a time. So we can insert like 10 rows at a time, and we'll do that here in just a second. And then here, we're just telling it the order that we're going to put these things in. Notice that title was the first one, image was the second one, type was the third one, right? We can reorganize that. There's no sacred order here. So I could have image first, as long as I put redpepper.jpg first, right? And that is 99% of what inserting is into. You just do insert into, you tell it the table, you tell it the order that you're going to give it things, and then you give it the values. The end. So let's talk just a moment about single quotes, double quotes. This was confusing for me as a JavaScript developer where it makes literally no difference, right? It does make a difference when it comes to SQL. So let's do this again. We're going to say insert into ingredients. Here, we can use double quotes. So I can say title in double quotes, I can say image in double quotes, and I can leave it off for type if I feel like it, right? This is letting it know it's the actual name of the column, right? So we're actually, I could even put ingredients in quotes. Let's do that. I don't think I can go up. Nope, okay. Anyway, you can put ingredients in quotes as well because it's the name of the table, right? So it's the identifiers that you can put into the double quotes. But notice here I'm doing it, here I'm not. It's optional, and frequently I don't. Almost never do I. And then here, again, because it's the literal value that I'm putting in here, I have to use single quotes. Broccoli, broccoli.jpg, and it is, I'm pretty sure it's a vegetable. Okay. So another thing to note here is that white space is not significant. Notice I'm just putting things on new lines, and I'm putting, if you read my notes, there's tabs everywhere. White space is not significant in SQL. You can put infinite space in there and it doesn't care. Dustin first, and then you.
Since type is a keyword, is there an issue having that as a column name?
Yeah, it's a good question. Since type is a keyword, like you'll notice in my some of my highlighting, it'll show up as highlighted. It's not, right? When you can see here in this particular case, there are things I think that are off limits for column names, but I think most of it's pretty fair game because it's usually unambiguous in the grammar of SQL. But yeah, people, I'm sure someone might take exception that I called it type, but I've called lots of stuff type in my career, so here we are. Yeah.
So you put single quotes no matter the value type, even if it's like a number?
So that's a good question. No, it's just for the string types, yeah. So if I wanted to put like 5 there, I would just put the actual number 5, because if you put the quotes around it, it becomes a string, right?
Okay.
That's a good thing to point out. Good question. Last thing here, to do comments in SQL. So this will actually fail because we have a unique constraint. But notice here, I have the dash dash here. This is how you do comments in SQL, is the dash dash. Anything that comes after the dash dash is commented. and again here, right? This should fail, right? Because it's going to say this title key here, broccoli, we put a unique constraint on that so that the title is unique for that particular table. So it failed to insert that because I tried to insert it again because it's already in there, right? One of the things I like about Postgres is I think it has, for the most part, pretty useful errors, right? Key title equals broccoli already exists. That lets me know right away you violated the constraint around having unique titles. You can name these ingredients title keys, right? If I say it's -d, you can see, or maybe here if I do ingredients, you can see that this has an index on the title key. We'll talk about indexes in a bit, but you can actually name these whatever you want. But if you don't name them, it has really useful sane default names for them. So I generally don't name them because I like the names that I would be typing out those names anyway, so I just let them name it for me. But if you see P key, that's another common one that you'll see here, stands for primary key. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Dustin.
Are tables stored like B trees?
Our tables are not stored as B trees. Indexes are stored as B trees sometimes. We will talk about that when we get to indexes. The actual physical manifestation of how Postgres stores them, I actually don't know, but it would not be a B tree. Okay. So I want to put a bunch of stuff in our table, and I don't want to type it all out. So you and I are going to copy this query right here. Yeah, right there. Feel free to copy and paste, too much typing. Okay. Now if I paste this in here, it might get a little mangled because it might be too long for you can see that right here, it's kind of mangled there. It's fine. It's just my terminal is not emulating it correctly. If I hit enter, you can see that I had 29 that inserted correctly. The only interesting thing here is one, you can see here we're just comma separating all these values out, right? But the interesting thing here is on conflict do nothing. Or let's go look at over here because it's probably easier to see. I had, for example, broccoli was in there already, and red pepper was in there already, right? That would have been a conflict because it's like, hey, you're trying to insert the title key again here. So basically on conflict do nothing is saying, if you hit any of these rows that you won't let me insert, just drop it. I don't care, just keep going, right? So I could actually potentially just run this again, and it's going to insert 0, but it's not going to crash, right? Whereas if I did it again, and I delete the on conflict part, and I just, is that correct? No, it's not. So we're just going to copy it and paste to here. You can always hit Control-C, and that'll escape whatever query you're in the middle of. And I do that again. So because I didn't put the on conflict do nothing here, it's going to immediately fail, and then nothing gets inserted, right? So you have to tell it what to do on conflicts. Okay, good so far? Does that make sense? It's good if you're doing like massive inserts or like you're seeding a database with a bunch of information to give it those kind of on conflict things. Otherwise, if you have one error, everything crashes. So I just wanted to show you a different way of, or something else you can do with that on conflict. If I say insert into ingredients, and I say title, image, value, values, I say watermelon. You can see there that watermelon definitely already exists. And I want to give it the image of banana because I don't live by the rules. And then I can say something of the type here, but I can just say this won't be updated. So you might wonder, why am I putting 2 quotes there? This is how you escape single quotes inside of the values, right? Because we can only use single quotes, we need some way of saying, like, what happens if I actually want a single quote inside of my query? The way you do that, it's not with backslash, which is what I was used to with literally everything else. In SQL, it's you put 2 single quotes next to each other. Okay, this won't work, right? I can actually just run it as is, and it's going to say, oh, I didn't put, it's not value, it's type. Okay, you can't put watermelon in here. I already have a watermelon, heck off. I'm not going to allow you to do this. What if I want to say, if this doesn't exist, insert it. If it does exist, update it, right? So watermelon exists. What if I just want to update it? This is where onConflict comes in is helpful again. OnConflict, you have to tell it on what sort of conflict, in this case title. Then you're going to say do update set image equals excluded dot image. So imagine if I have 50 of these, right? And I wanted to just update it if it has some sort of conflict there. That's what the excluded dot image is. The excluded means the row that got excluded, and then I want you to pull the image off, and I want you to set the image on whatever one that conflicted on title. So just to prove my point from you, again, we'll talk about selects here in just a second. Select star from ingredients, where title equals watermelon. You can see there it did update it. I don't have 2 rows in here. I have just one, and the one got updated. You will typically hear this referred to as an upsert, right? It's an update and an insert in one step. If you're doing something like MongoDB, they actually literally call it upsert, right? That's the name of the method that you use. In SQL, you're going to do this onConflict business. So if I come back and do this again, what happens? You can also just say that this would just get set to some string as well, right? And now if I do this, let's say I had 500 conflicts, right? All of them would get set to default.jpg instead of actually going and updating it. Make sense? All right, let's go back and make it a watermelon again. Okay. Any questions about updates, upserts, conflicts? General life advice. I'm usually good at that too. Just kidding. Don't ask me life advice. I barely have mine together. Maybe I don't even have mine together. Okay. Let's talk about updates and deletes. We saw an upsert. Let's just do a normal old update now. So I'm going to say update ingredients set image equal to watermelon.jpg, or we can go back to, I don't know, we'll call it strawberry, I guess. .jpg, where title equals watermelon. Okay. You can see there it did an update. So now if I say select star from, or I can just do this again. In case it's unclear, you can hit up. It'll scroll backwards through the queries that you've done before, which is what I'm doing. Okay. So I've done this update here. You just say set whatever do you want, and then you give it a where clause to define which one. If I didn't give it a where clause, it would update literally every single one, right? Which might be what you're trying to do, right? You might want literally everything to have a picture of a strawberry. You have a weird recipe app, in my opinion, at that point, but it's possible, right? So what if you want to see what you're doing, right? And this actually works on the inserts, this works on the deletes. What if you want to see what the result of your works are after you've done them? So we can say update ingredients, set image equal to watermelon.jpg, where title equals watermelon. And then I'm going to say returning, and you can just ask for whatever you want back, right? In this case, I want back the title, the image, and the ID, and the type, right? So not only am I updating it, right? This is an update command, right? It's not a select command. But by saying returning this as like, hey, once you've done everything, give me back everything that you updated. I'm sure you can imagine this being useful. Like, let's say you're updating a user's profile. You want to confirm to the user that's like, hey, you set your new picture and you told me that you now live in Minneapolis instead of Seattle. So I'm going to update the database and ask for the new information back so that I can send that back down to the user to confirm to them, your stuff actually changed, I promise, I did it. So that's what the returning does. Now, this is kind of a burdensome thing to say. Let's say I literally just want to get everything back. That's what the star is for. So I can actually just say return star, which just means everything, right? Notice this one, it gave me back everything in the order that I asked for it, title, image, ID, type. This one will give it back to, I think it's generally in the order that you created it, but I don't think you're guaranteed. Yeah, Dustin.
What is the output insert 0, 1? What does 0 represent?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's here in the inserts. It might be ignored. I'm trying to remember. I thought it was updated, or I thought it was updated, but I don't actually think that's correct. I wonder if I do this. No, 0, 0. I cannot remember off the top of my head what the 0 is. The second one is always rows affected. Obviously, nothing happened here because all of these already exist, so that's why they're both 0, 0. Maybe someone in chat can remember off the top of their head.
Someone saying inserted 0 but updated 1 kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, inserted 0 but updated 1. But I think if you do if we scroll back up to where we did this the first time. Yeah, see, it was insert 0. This 29 it had 29 inserted. Anyway.
I Googled it, and it says the 0 is only applicable if the table uses classic PostgreSQL, and if so, the 0 represents the actual OID created. But that might be an AWS thing. I don't know. Something about object IDs.
Okay. In other words, I never paid attention to it because it never affected me. Or I don't know if it affected me, I just never knew what it meant. Do you want now, John, or can I have like 5-10 minutes?
We should do it now, otherwise it might cut you off.
Okay, cool. We are going to take another 5-minute tech break, and then I'm going to Google this so that I can come back and sound intelligent.